My name is Chanel, and on behalf of Hollywood Forever, I want to welcome all of you to the 91st Valentino Memorial Service. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here. We see very familiar faces every year. We see new faces this year, so truly we are so happy to have such a generous attendance every year. It is really a testament to the legacy that Valentino leaves with his life and his work, so thank you for being a part of that with us today. I do apologize for the humidity and heat in this room. I can only attribute it to the hot and steamy lover that Valentino portrays so often in his movies. So it's really just, we made it humid in here just to get that point across. But thank you, I know it's a tad uncomfortable, but you're going to enjoy yourselves. You have such a wonderful program ahead of you, and we hope to see all of you again next year. Without further ado, though, I will turn it over now to Tracy Terhune. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone here. We're glad to have you here at the 91st Annual Valentino Memorial. I always like to say it, and people who have been here before have heard it before, but I'll say it again. This is the oldest continuing annual event in Hollywood history. It's amazing, and now you're all part of it. We also want to welcome, for the second year, we did that for the first year last year, Facebook Live. And I was absolutely amazed at the people who tuned in all over the world. We had more people watching on Facebook Live last year than actually attended in person for the last 20 years. Wow. So welcome to Facebook. All over the world. As you saw on the banners outside, and also the big 6-sheet poster, which is an original, from 1918, that's 100 years old. That's a society sensation, starring Carmel Myers, along with, of course, the leading man, Rudolph Valentino. This poster was found in a root cellar. It's in a place in Montana. A man had inherited a piece of property from his great uncle. And the house had long since burned down, and he was rototilling, and wood chips started flying out. So he thought, what's wood doing in the dirt? And it turned out to be a root cellar that they just never burned up. And so he went down in there, and all these silent movie posters were. I'm sure this is probably the only copy known. And this is the first time it's been shown in public outside of my house. But I thought the 100th anniversary of it is certainly worth it. So I hope you all enjoy it. You can come up afterwards and take pictures. Please don't go beyond the velvet ropes. But feel free to take pictures of it, along with a complete set of lobby cards from that film. It was on display as well. In addition to that, if that wasn't enough, we have his payroll check from Universal Pictures from July of 1918. He signed Rudolfo di Valentina, and it's here in the case here as well. So you can enjoy all those after the service. So let's get on with our program, and I'm proud to welcome to the stage Allison Francis, who will be reading selections from Rudolph Valentino's book of poetry, Daydreams. Please welcome Allison Francis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Tracy. Every year when I'm able to do this, Tracy's been very nice to me to let me constantly read the poetry. I usually get to read from Valentino's personal copy of Daydreams, and last year I was able to read from Mary Pickford's personal copy of Daydreams, and this year we have a very rare British edition of Daydreams that I'm going to be reading from. So the first poem is Heart Flower. O lovely rose, within whose chalice lies the heart of my true love. Did not the gods in benediction stoop to bless thee from above, and place within thy roseate lips the ruby's counterpart? I found it there, a jewel rare, the flower of thy heart. Suspicion. There crossed the path of my dream of you, a gossamer web of gray, so soft its sheen, almost unseen, but it stopped me on my way. Like a cold gray granite battlement, it walled me all about, for a cruel steel was in the field of the silken web of doubt. The last poem I'm going to be reading is called Even Song. I sing a song to the sapphire sky that curtains the sleeping earth. I sing a song to the stars on high that mark a jewel's worth. My feeble voice, so weak it sounds, a puny, earthy cry. Yet when it echoes, comes to me, angelic voice in harmony, I know it is not I. It was belief that gave it wing, that weakling voice of mine, and carried it where angels sing, God's melody divine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Allison. Next, we have a newcomer to the Valentino Memorial, Daniel Rinjuri. Daniel comes from Florida. He's a SWAT police officer. And you thought, how did he make his way to the Valentino Memorial? Well, he has a great interest in silent film and film Hollywood history. Even in television, he's if you watch this coming season of Survivor, he's one of those. Did you survive? You can't tell us, you can't tell us. What Daniel's going to do is read a vintage essay that was written in New York before Valentino was even buried here. So when you hear what he reads, this was taking place while the mass hysteria in New York was taking place. So just keep that in mind when you listen to what he has to say of what they thought of Valentino. Please welcome Daniel Rinjuri.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Tracy. A great sob, rough-hewn in the hearts of loving friends, admirers, acquaintances, and fellow craftsmen sounded in Hollywood when the cry of "Extra! Valentino dead" was heard along the boulevard. Many who paused to buy a paper knew him in life. Many had seen him pass with his cheery smile, and many had known him only as a distinguished artist. Yet, there was a sorrow of a genuine brand on every face. His condition had been the talk of the studio for the days during his illness. Every conversation wound up somehow with talk of Valentino. Man, and many a person who knew him not, wished him well in that fight for life he staged. When the definite news was finally worded about and the papers had reached the four corners of the industry, there was a grief unparalleled in the city. It is safe to say that he was, and is more generally mourned than an individual in the history of the city. The grief not only was manifested by the flapper type to whom he was ever the chic, but by staid and several persons who regarded him only as a great artist gone. The charm of his personality that won him a legion of friends was recalled by many of them, and many a stalwart man brushed away a tear at the thought so fine a fellow had passed. There is some consolation to be found in consideration of the huge bounty that was his in the brief 31 years he dwelt in the flesh. He gave and received much from life. Much of fanciful diction might be written about his departure as well as about his life, but the pleasing thought is the place he had steep cut to the wall of the cathedral of millions of hearts. Grief is not only the emption that one feels when thinking of the passing of Rudolph Valentino. There's another comforting thought in the belief he had often expressed, the belief he would die young. The comfort to be found therein comes from the fact that the thought to him presented no terror. He could talk of it easily and not have the idea of disaster in that thought. But the thought lingers that he had known. He would have been willing to smile and wave his hand in a farewell that would have said, "If it is time, I am willing." Let this prophecy go forth in the case of Valentino. He will be a topic of conversation a year from today, 5 years from today, and many years beyond. There may be other great actors happen along. There may be other great personalities that will hold the center of the stage. But do not mistake, they will not be Valentino, personalities in a degree approaching his own. He was born as a distinct somebody with a definite it about him.
Thank you, Daniel. Just to clarify, that was written in Los Angeles while everything was going on in New York, because he was talking about the studios in Los Angeles on the streets and how everyone knew him personally, was just stunned by this news that happened 92 years ago today. Our next speaker is someone who was our keynote speaker 2 years ago, did a marvelous job, and we corralled him into coming back and introducing a clip that we're about to show you about Carmel Myers. And I'll let Tim tell that story. Please welcome Stan Taffel.
Thank you, my friend Tracy and Stella. Thank you for the invite. Welcome. Bonjour. ¿Cómo estás? And for Facebook Live, yo, how you doing? As a film preservationist and a restorer of films, it's always fun when something rare shows up that no one knew existed before. I get the greatest thrill out of that. And I know you do too, if you like classic film, when you hear that something new has been discovered. Overnight, someone posted some film clips from some rare 35mm nitrate and put it on Facebook and asked, can anybody identify this? I'm happy to tell you that a lost Lon Chaney film was rediscovered overnight. Only a fragment, but I see faces of classic silent film fans who are freaking out right now. You never know what's out there. You're about to see one of those things that I never knew existed. In your programs, by the way, after speaking here 2 years ago, I had such a wonderful, wonderful time. My wife and I make this a vacation day now for us. We loved what Tracy and Stella and Tammy do for this. So I want you to know that as a board of directors of the new Famous Players Orchestra, it's a 19-piece orchestra, I've convinced our musical director he is putting together a brand new score. And if you saw this in your program, on September 1st, tickets will go on sale in Burbank for a one performance only of Son of the Sheik with a new assembled score. So the tickets go on sale and there are only 350 seats. So you get the first shot before the regular people that come. There was a woman, a wonderful woman in the silent era whose poster is behind me right now. And she became a very important woman in Los Angeles history and in Los Angeles Jewish history and in entertainment history. If you think of a talk show, I know you're thinking of Johnny Carson, because some of you may be close to my age, and none of you said Jimmy Kimmel right away. But there was a first talk show, the very first one, and it was hosted by Carmel Myers. From 1951 and on, she hosted the Carmel Myers Show, which was a weekly 15-minute chat show in which she invited guests from Hollywood and other luminaries to come and talk about their lives and careers. As a matter of fact, it's an amazing concept to have someone talk on a couch with somebody. In 1951, it had never been done. But Carmel Myers did it for a brand new network that didn't even have a logo. They were calling themselves the American Broadcasting Company. I would love to tell you, and I know that throughout the years, you've never heard much about the Carmel Myers Show, because like so many shows, it has disappeared from the face of the earth. All of the years that she worked, gone, lost, forgotten, never known. Or so I thought. In my ever-changing world of putting on dungarees and ripped shirts to jump into dumpsters, I discovered 3 episodes of the Lost Carmel Myers Show. I had to cure them because they were unprojectable. The film had shrunken, it had warped and curled, and it couldn't be run, and I was encouraged to just throw it away because of the smell. Guys don't throw things away because of the smell. I took the film, I reverse wound it so the curl would go the opposite way. I had it in solution for 5 years. And last year I decided to see if it would be projectable. And it was. There are two kinds of collectors of film in the world, good ones and bad ones. Ones that share what they find with the world, and ones that hold it to themselves. I am one of the good ones, and today, that's nice, but today I'm going to show you something that's really unique. In 1951, the very first episode of the Carmel Myers show, she was talking about her career in Hollywood. For you who are the Valentino lovers and historians, add this note into your history books. The first topic that was ever spoken about on any talk show in history was about Rudolph Valentino, because that's what Carmel Myers did at the beginning of her show. As soon as I found the footage and saw it, the first thing I said, aside from "Oi," was, Tracy and Stella have got to see this. I Facebooked Tracy, who is a very busy man at his job, doesn't call you right away, but he broke the world speed record for responding on that one. And he said, "How can I see it?" And I wrote, "See it? I'm giving it to you so you can share it with your Valentino friends." So you're going to get to see this. It's not long and it's not gorgeous. It's a kinescope that has seen better days. And if you don't know what a kinescope is, that was the way they would preserve a live television show, by filming the TV set before the advent of videotape. So the footage you will see is from, not only is it the pilot episode, and her special guest was Richard Rodgers, which I was very excited about too, until I realized there was a stand-in for Richard Rodgers during the entire show. And then I realized what I had was not only, it wasn't just the pilot episode, it was the dress rehearsal for the pilot episode, the show that not only was never meant to be seen, it never has been seen. You're going to have, this is the very first public performance of the clip for Valentino. So, this clip was given to Tracy and to Stella with the hope that if they want to share it throughout the world, they can, they should, because that's why it should be available for the people that want to see what came before. Just like we do at Cinecon, like we're going to do next week. So Tracy, in your honor for honoring me 2 years ago, this one's for you. Thank you.
The American Broadcasting Company presents The Carmel Myers Show. This is the living room of Miss Myers' home. It's comfortable and filled with warm memories. On the piano, there are photographs of many people, all part of the life of one of America's loveliest and most versatile stars of screen, musical comedy, stage, and radio.
Hello, I'm Carmel Myers. You know, television's very new to me. Oh, I've been a guest on several shows, but I felt very comfortable because then I was only concerned with my own quick on and off performance. But when I heard I was going to have my own program, I began thinking, what could I do that would be interesting and exciting, perhaps? And then all my friends came forward with suggestions. Some said, well, just reminisce. And others said, well, play the ukulele and sing. And then some said, oh, tell stories and anecdotes. Well, I got a little bit confused with all of this, but I thought perhaps if I did a little bit of each, I'd make them all happy. And I hope you'll like it, too. I don't know if you remember that around the studios and the theaters now, they're showing a picture about Rudolph Valentino, his life. Here's a photograph taken of him when he first started in the movies. His handsome face and exciting personality were really overwhelming. I knew Rudy pretty well. In fact, we did several pictures together. But I'll never forget the first scene in the first picture we did. We were on location in Santa Monica, and we were on a wharf that was built out into the Pacific Ocean. And the director took special pains with the scene because he wanted the dramatic effect of Rudy rescuing me from the ocean. Everything was ready, the props were ready, the cameras were lined up, and the director said, action, camera, and Rudy went to the end of the wharf, and then he stopped, came back, and the director said, come on, Rudy, let's go, we're filming this. So Rudy again walked to the end of the wharf, and again he stopped. And the director said, "Go on, Rudy, jump. We're wasting film. Come on." So finally, Rudy jumped. But the scene didn't come off quite as planned because Rudy couldn't swim. And it ended up with me having to pull him out of the water. Well, everyone was quite concerned, but I said not to worry about it, that if Rudy and I were going to do any more sea pictures together, wouldn't they please arrange for him to have some swimming lessons?
Who treasure 16mm film and did 5 years to preserve what we just saw. Otherwise, it would have been gone for the world. And not only to preserve it, but to share it. Thank you, Stan. Thank you. We all appreciate it. It's kind of funny that Carmel was talking about the film we're honoring today, the 100th anniversary of Society Sensation. I think she got her facts a little bit wrong because we've all seen the diehard Valentino fans. We've all seen the footage of him frolicking in the pool. So I think he could swim, but maybe it was just a little cold in the ocean that day. So, but it made for a great story. I'm pleased to introduce our singer today, who's new to us with the Valentino Memorial, Joel Brandon. He's joining us to sing a couple songs, and I'll let him take it from here. Please welcome Joel Brandon.
Thank you so much.
Someday I wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles not like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Thank you so much. When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burden me, and I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas, and I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas, and I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas, and I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joel. It's sort of nice hearing Over the Rainbow here with Judy Garland now in this cemetery. So that's a nice touch. Rudy and Judy. It's my honor now to invite to the podium someone I'm real delighted to hear from, and that is Brandy Cox. She's a film archivist and a local silent film programmer. She is one half of the team of the Silent Treatment. If you've ever been to one of their presentations, I urge you to go because they're always insightful. She gets prints that you're probably not going to see anywhere anytime soon. and they're really well done. And so, please, she's going to talk today about Valentino 101, and that's the casual curiosity to the exploration and efficacy of Valentino. So please welcome to the Valentino Memorial for her first time, Brandy Cox.
Originally established in 1926, called the Golden State. It still stands, and it is successfully operating to this day, but that wasn't always the case. Theater operations had their highs and lows over the decades, and at one time it was redesigned as a 3-screen multiplex in the 1970s. But by 1990, the State Theater Preservation Group was formed to acquire and restore the building. A replacement Wurlitzer pipe organ was installed in 1992, and it was the best way to celebrate. And what is the best way to celebrate the new installation of a pipe organ than to program a couple of famous silent pictures? I distinctly recall the theater arranging 2 theatrical presentations of The Phantom of the Opera and The Son of the Sheik. I attended both with scant knowledge of either title, other than one person was deemed the man of 1,000 faces, and the other was deemed a great lover. I thoroughly enjoyed the shows, and what I did not realize at the time was that this early exposure to silent pictures laid the foundation to formally study motion picture history, theory, and analysis in college. And when it comes to Valentino, I did not want to form an opinion about the man or the actor without seeing more of his motion picture work. Over the course of several years, I went on to view the majority of his extant features, such as The Eagle and Cobra, Camille, Blood and Sand, and The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. As my casual viewership broadened and sharpened, it dawned on me that I was watching much more than motion pictures with Valentino in a starring or supporting role. I was also discovering the talented craftsmen and women attached to each picture, both in front of and behind the camera. Suddenly, I found myself drawn into the direction of Rex Ingram and Clarence Brown, the scenario writing of June Mathis, supporting cast members like Louise Dresser and Nina Naldi, the production design of William Cameron Menzies, the editing of Dorothy Arzner, and the list goes on and on and on. I then took the leap to drill down into the filmographies of many of the individuals I mentioned, and to my sadness discovered there are several gaps in their body and motion picture work. Many pictures that their names are attached to are either lost or found in truncated versions. According to a comprehensive survey published in 2013, commissioned for and sponsored by the National Film Preservation Board, author David Pierce reported the following findings. Only 14% of American silent feature films released between 1912 through 1929 survive as originally released in complete 35mm prints. Another 11% also survive in complete form, but in less than ideal editions, foreign release versions, or small gauge formats such as 16mm. And 5% of American silent feature films survive in an incomplete form, missing at least a reel of the original footage, in formats ranging from 35mm down to abridged 9.5mm home library prints. Public awareness about these statistics has grown, and it has resulted in an increase of actively conserving and preserving what remains from this period in archives across the globe. And in many cases, reintroducing these titles back into specialty film festivals, boutique art houses, and digital streaming platforms. Speaking to you today as a professional archivist and silent film programmer, I can say with confidence that casual viewership is a vital component to the sustainability of the silent cinema ecosystem. To those in the audience who may still identify themselves as a casual viewer, I express my gratitude for your continued curiosity and to please keep it going. Talk about it, write about it, share your impressions about the pictures you see on social media outlets. No interaction or engagement is too small. This stands as evidence that motion pictures produced in the silent film era are still relevant and valuable as they were upon initial release. And on that note, I turn back to Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. We're next going to see a clips of the surviving footage of a society sensation. So that's our tribute video. believe that was 100 years ago. That was enjoyable. That water looked pretty refreshing, didn't it? Now I'm glad to introduce someone who's no stranger to the Valentino Memorial and no stranger to Hollywood history. And he's been here many times before, and I'm delighted he accepted our request to be our keynote speaker to tell us what was going on 100 years ago in Hollywood, and of course pertaining to the film we're honoring 100 years ago at Universal. Please welcome Hollywood historian par excellence, Mark Wanamaker.
100 years, isn't it amazing, huh? Well, let's talk about, before I get to 100 years ago, just last week in the LA Times on August 18th, is this big advertisement. What does it say? Falcon Lair, Beverly Hills, offered for sale for only $29,500,000. And of course, approved plans for the 30,000 plus square foot modern Mediterranean luxury retreat. Unfortunately, the house was falling down the hill and does not exist, unfortunately. Just the gates, the famous gates of Falcon Lair and the guest house. So here we are, just looking at this and just thinking we're going to have this tribute. And here, to this day, it's still, Valentino has an impact on Hollywood and Los Angeles, and the world. How about that? So, a couple other things, interestingly. You know, just right after his death in December was the auction of Falcon Lair and all of his stuff. This is just a facsimile of the catalog. But right after that, there was an article in movie magazines. And I'll just read you just the highlights here. It says, Rudy and his favorite little gelding, Yaki, which sold for $425 at the auction. Shows a picture of him with him. And then it talks about that the auction was on North Highland Avenue, 1753 North Highland Avenue. This is in 1926, mind you. December 10th was the auction. And people started to line up. 1,000 people came to this auction right after his death. And there were all kinds of comments by people in Hollywood, but one of his best friends, one of his comments was this. It was, Valentino's friend said, Valentino's death is one of the greatest tragedies in the history of the motion picture industry. His ability as an actor, for which he has seldom given credit, was the reason for his success. Well, that was Charlie Chaplin, his friend, that said that at the time. Then by 1930, there were tributes coming on and off. There was this one here with the famous, in this movie magazine, it was Exhibitor World. Dolores Del Rio, United Artists star, unveiling the memorial statue in Los Angeles, which is at the Long Creek Park in Hollywood, by the way. A gift which is dedicated to Rudolph Valentino for his many admirers. It is called Aspiration and was sculptured by Roger Noble Burnham, who stands here in the picture with her. That memorial is still there, so I urge you to go and see this memorial. One last thing before I get to the modern, the past days. In 1930, the house itself, Harry Carey, the famous Western star, was living in the house at the time. And he was asked about it. What was it like living in Valentino's house? And he said, well, it's a haunted house, he says. He says that whenever he walks around the place, he thinks of his friend Valentino. They all knew him, of course. And one last thing about this. This is another article, another movie magazine about at the 6606 Sunset Boulevard, S. George Ullman's office, that he was the manager. And at this time, this is 1928, they were sending out thousands of photographs around the world every week because people wanted to have something of Valentino. Now this is in the 20s, the 30s, let's go into the 40s, with of course the ladies in black coming to this memorial. And we go on and on and on into constant mentioning of Valentino. And I did a survey years ago of him. And people ask me, and people ask all the time, they say, well, why are we honoring Valentino? He's a silent movie star. He died so young. He was only in Hollywood a short time. Because I'm with, and many of us, with Hollywood Heritage. And Hollywood Heritage honors old Hollywood. And that's what I'm getting to now. It's old Hollywood. And he is symbolic. He's an icon of old Hollywood. Sure, he had a short time here. But look what the impact is. Look at his face right down here. What a face for silent movies. I mean, my gosh. I mean, this is amazing. But his impact was in many places. And, like, I'll just read you a few of them. His home in Whitley Heights is always talked about. It's gone now, but it's constantly on people's minds. Did he live there? Did he not live there? Who did he live there with? I mean, where was it? This and that. The monument to Longtree Park, the Hollywood Memorial Forever Cemetery, where we are right now, is synonymous with Rudy Valentino. People come to this mausoleum, they say, oh, that's Valentino's mausoleum. I mean, forget about everyone else. The Paramount Studio, which is right behind us. Before it was Paramount, it was United Studios, where he had Ritz-Carlton Productions. That's where his bungalow is. The bungalow is still there on the lot. Oh my gosh, there's the Metro Studios, which doesn't exist anymore. It's at the Lillian Way and Romaine Street, right in the heart of Hollywood, where the Technicolor building was, where he was. The Hollywood Hotel, which doesn't exist anymore, which is talked about all the time. Of course, the Los Angeles Athletic Club downtown. The Hollywood Athletic Club, which is still there on Sunset Boulevard. The Alexandria Hotel, when we talk about the history of Los Angeles and Hollywood. Grauman's $1 Million Theater, with Son of the Sheik premiered down there. The Ambassador Hotel, which doesn't exist anymore, is where he stayed, where people had parties, where he was all the time. Of course, Falcon Lair on Bella Drive, which, as you can now see, doesn't exist anymore except for bits and pieces of it. The Beverly Hills Water Monument, the Beverly Hills was going to annex itself to Los Angeles, and it was Valentino, his good friends Doug Fairbanks, Mary Pickford, and the rest of them that had a vote to keep Beverly Hills as Beverly Hills. Thank you, Valentino was one of those people that wanted to keep it. The Beverly Hills Bridle Path was started by Hobart Bosworth, Valentino, and others who lived in Beverly Hills, like Doug Fairbanks. And, of course, he had his horses. And everybody had their horses. He was known to be riding. There's Valentino riding his horse down Sunset Boulevard. I mean, this is so exciting when you think about all of the other areas. The Marion Davies Beach House, the Talmadge Beach House, where he would come to parties. The Lasky Ranch, where he shot many of his films, which is now Forest Lawn, Hollywood. You see, by reading all of these here, then you have to understand that he was a part of Hollywood. There's no question about it. And when he started over at Universal, Universal was originally the site of the Universal Studios, the Providencia Rancho. The Providencia Rancho was part of the old ranchos of California. And here we have Universal's coming there in 1912. And we have Valentino already there right around the beginning of World War I. They've only been there, but they moved from the Providencia Rancho to where we now see Universal today on Lancashire Boulevard. This is where Valentino first came to see the San Fernando Valley. It's far-fetched from Italy, of course, and New York. But Valentino came to a very crude studio. All of them were crude in those days. They were open-air stages. They were the dressing rooms were right nearby. Everybody was part of the filmmaking process. This was the pioneering days of these studios, and Valentino was one of those people. As I mentioned before, Metro Studios in Hollywood, famous Players Lasky at Sunset and Vine, and of course the Hollywood Heritage Museum, the Barn. These are places where Valentino frequented. And for me, who's constantly thinking of Valentino, it always comes up in historic pictures, historic landmarks, historic people like Carmel Myers talking about him. This man was special in Hollywood because he's still on our minds. We're still talking about him. Tracy has an exhibit at the Barn. You know, it's been there it's still there, right? For a long time. Right. And we are always trying to bring the attention to the world. The press used to come to these events, and look at it as being like a campy thing. Well, we are very serious about Hollywood history and old Hollywood. And so thanks to Tracy now and for the last few years, this is a dignified event now. It's not a circus anymore. It's a dignified event to try to keep Hollywood, Hollywood. The silent films that people are preserving and finding, what Stan had found and all, we're constantly looking for these reminders. And of course, all I can tell you is it's an emotional thing for all of us, particularly myself, being involved with Valentino. No, I didn't know him. People say, did you know him? Yes. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, you know why they ask this? Because many of us who studied Valentino in Hollywood and where they lived and all this stuff, it's as if we knew him. And people like Robert Flory, a famous French director, knew him. Gave me pictures of him working out, boxing, this and that at Falcon Lair. I mean, when you see snapshots, when you see things that are candid, that show Valentino at the parties, visiting with friends, then you understand that this is a part of old Hollywood that we're still perpetuating today. It's still what we want to keep Hollywood. Otherwise, why would tourists want to come to Hollywood? They wouldn't want to come. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Tracy, again.
I always love to hear Mark talk about old Hollywood because he could go, and it has so much knowledge, and it's always, I learn something every time. I do have to make one little note that the display Hollywood Heritage, yes, it's still there, but it was also done by my co-worker here, Stella Grace. But do go see it. Do go see it. I was so tempted to bring a cowboy hat and put it on about right now because the audio we're going to hear, this Valentino song, I never heard this before. And I'd like to know, I'm going to ask you afterwards if any of you had heard this before. My good friend and Valentino historian and author, Donna Hill, turned this record over to me, and I just took a liking to it. So this is a country western feel to Rudolph Valentino for our 2018 Valentino tribute video. Let's roll it, and then we'll ask later what you think.
He came from a faraway land and was known among women as a man among men. His name is recorded in Love's Hall of Fame. Rudolph Valentino was his name. He had a technique with women, unique, so they tell, for girls of all ages fell under his spell. Now that made men jealous, they could not compete. Named him Casanova on the street. Valentino, Valentino, famous the whole world over. But a young man, not much overgrown. Stories were told that he didn't die alone. Was said that some women took their lives the day Rudolph Valentino passed away. So loved was this man throughout the world. He was a legend to every boy and girl. In New York's big city, his service was held. Mourners by the millions cried farewell. Valentino, Valentino, famous the whole world over. Valentino, Valentino, his name will live forever. 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 His name will live forever.
Okay, what did you think? So I like that. I just thought it was great. The artist, it was a 45 record by Freddie Hart, and I tried to do some research on it. Couldn't find too much out about it, but I just thought it country western, so we pull in every cowboy hat and picture and horse, and thought that would be good. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Great.
Thank you so much, Joel. That was very good, very moving. Now to close the service, my co-committee member, Stella Grace, newcomer to the Valentino Memorial. How many years, Stella? She can't count that.
Decades.
Now let's welcome Stella Grace.
Thank you, everybody, for coming again. It was really enjoyable getting to speak to a lot of the new people that are here. And one of the things that I want to say to the new people is, we don't do this for us. We do this for you. We want to encourage the new people to please learn more about Valentino and his life and his career. There's actually some fabulous books out there to educate you. Emily Leider's book, Ellen Ellenberger's book, actually Ellen's right here. And I encourage you to learn more about Valentino, to be part of this process. And for the people that have been coming for years, welcome again. On the back of your program, the 23rd Psalm, and the reason we do this is a tradition that goes back to 91 years. So if you could please, and Joel is going to accompany me, turn to the back of your program, the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me beside pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. In the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. For rod and thy staff comfort me. Thou preparest the table in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Thank you.
Okay. That's good. Just a couple of quick announcements and thank yous. I'd like to acknowledge a couple of special guests that are with us in attendance today. Sylvia Valentino Hubner. Sylvia's father was Gene Valentino, who was the son of Alberto Valentino, who was the brother of Rudolph Valentino. So thank you. She's always supported the Valentino Memorial and almost always attends when she can. So we're glad to have you here today. We have Academy Award nominated actress Terry Moore with us. Last year she spoke. This year she's in attendance. Terry Moore. I'd like to thank Zachary Jaden for the sound system. I think it's vastly improved. We started this last year, and now people can actually hear. Hello? Thank you, Zachary. A lot of work went into this. We were for 4 hours yesterday setting up the sound system. I'd like to thank the person who's watching right now in Germany, Frank Labrador. Thank you, Frank. He's Frank does the videos for us every year. We had great fun putting that Western song together, and he does a great job every year, so thank you, Frank. So, on a personal note, I always like to acknowledge when someone in the Valentino community passes, and we always do that. And since this is a name that's probably not a household name, but he sure was great to me, Michael Back. You'll inside your program, you'll see the artwork that we have here in the easel. When I first was writing my book on the history of this event, him and his wife, Virginia, welcomed me in open arms and gave me carte blanche to their collection. Their pictures, the picture on the cover of my book, all of those vintage photographs that you see in the first 50 pages, the historic pages. When I had Emily Leider read the book, and she did the opening introduction, she wrote back and said, wow, what pictures. No one had seen those. They hadn't been printed since the original 1920 news photographs. Anyways, Michael passed just late last year. since the memorial. And he in fact came and got the last picture taken of Lady in Black, Dietrich Flume, which he allowed me to use in my book. Picture him and her standing right over here. That was her last appearance. So I just wanted to acknowledge Michael because he was a great part of helping me and his great support of this event. So that concludes the 2018 91st Annual Valentino Memorial. We'll see you all here next year for the 92nd. Thank you. God bless.